right, Council, we're going to call this Tuesday, May 12th study session to order. If the clerk would please call the roll.
Councilmember Amy Lamb. Here. Councilmember Roisin O'Farrell.
Here.
Mayor Josh Amato.
Here.
Councilmember Kent Treen.
Present.
Councilmember Michael Boyer.
Here.
Councilmember Pam Stewart.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Debbie Treen.
Here.
Thank you very much. If Councilmember Stewart, would you please lead us in the pledge?
If you're able, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Deputy Mayor, would you please read the land acknowledgement statement?
Yes, thank you. The city is a proud partner of the Snoqualmie tribe, and we feel it is important to recognize the history and connection tribes have always had to these lands. Therefore, I will now read our statement. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And with that, we will open our public comment here. The sheet will be making its way to me. When I call your name, if you could please make your way to the podium over there. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and your city of residence, and I will start to cut you off when the clock hits 3. All right, up first we have Mary Wichter, then Larry Blackstock, and Swan Jacobson.
Good evening, Council. My name is Mary Wichter. I've lived here 25 years in Sammamish, and tonight I'm going to talk about your fiscal sustainability and using information from Urban 3, which is a consultant for this city, and I've given this before. It's from last year, and it talks about mixed-use housing versus single-family homes. And then I summarized on a sheet that if you have mixed-use housing like Sky Apartments, you end up with about $43,000 per acre. And if you do large single-family homes that are R4 or 4 houses to an acre, you only end up with less than $7,000. So basically, by doing densification in your centers, you get 6 times as much money per acre, and you use about 1/6 the land. And I'm going to do a demonstration. So Swan's going to count. I am, without any permits, I am going to build 100 houses. Each one of these sheets is an acre. So since it's R4, each sheet represents 4 houses. So I'm going to need 25 sheets. All right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25.
So that's 25 sheets and 4 houses per each.
If you could please speak into the mic. Thank you.
So that's 25 sheets, 4 houses per sheet. So that's 100 houses. And then also when you build those, you end up with 4.4 acres of roads. So I have to add 4.4 acres. And we'll call this the 0.4. So for that, you get 100 homes, and you get less than $7,000 per municipal tax per acre. Sorry, I'm breathing hard. If you build Sky Apartments, which is mixed use, it only requires 1.6 acres, 1.67 acres. So that versus this. This gets $43,000 per municipal acre. That gets less than $7,000 per acre. So this is 6% of the land area required to do that. So we're not, when we do this, we're not saving trees or wildlife or anything. We're using more of the land. We are not using it well. Densification is probably the only thing that I know that's going to make you sustainable fiscally. Thank you. And I'll just leave my papers till proclamations or something. Thank you, Swan.
Up next, we have Larry Blackstock, and then Swan Jacobson, and then Mudra Mashawat.
Hello, my name is Lori Matsukawa, and Larry is my husband, and he's having difficulty with his voice tonight, but he didn't want to miss the opportunity to express these sentiments tonight. Larry is with the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotilla 22 here in the Puget Sound area, and he wanted to congratulate Mudra, who you will hear more about later tonight. He was very pleased to know that she has put a lot of effort toward raising awareness towards boating and lake safety. There's a lot of concern about the increased risks and even deaths related to increased use of the waters around the cities of Puget Sound. And today is this week is National Boating and Paddling Safety Week. So again, we would like to congratulate Mudra today and encourage her and other youth to continue supporting programs done by the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary to raise awareness about safety. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
May I? Thank you for your service, Larry. Appreciate it.
Swan, and then Mudra.
Hello, Council. Now, the city makes a lot of proclamations, and it's understandable they can't make one for every single awareness day that is out there. This is very topical because there are some fantastic ones to talk about today. I just wanted to bring up another one that is specific today just because it impacts some friends close to me, because today is Chronic Fatigue Syndrome Day, or Awareness Day. It's not something that I myself experience, but it's something that I know some close friends do. Chronic fatigue syndrome is a physical disability and is often what is considered an invisible disability. Now, Jillian and others have given some excellent talks about that sort of thing before, so I just wanted to speak briefly to it as well as a general reminder that just the importance of being considerate and welcoming to your neighbors and the strangers around you, because you don't know what they are going through, and it usually is more than you would think just on sight. And listen to the people around you, help them where you can, be kind. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mudra.
Thank you, Mayor Amato, members of the City Council, and City staff. My name is Mudra Machevad. I'm a sophomore at Skyline High School, founder of the Lake Safe Initiative, and a proud Sammamish resident. Thank you for recognizing May as Boating and Lake Safety Awareness Month and for helping elevate awareness around an issue that deeply matters to our community. Across Washington, our waters are among our most treasured places, but the places we love the most also deserve our greatest respect. Because open water is different. It can look calm until it isn't. Cold water, sudden depth changes, fatigue, weather shifts, lack of flotation, delayed rescue response, and sometimes impaired judgment due to alcohol or substance use can turn recreation into tragedy in minutes. Drowning is preventable, yet more than 4,000 people lose their lives to unintentional drowning each year in the United States. And here in King County, 190 lives were lost due to preventable drownings over the past 7 years. Behind every number is a family whose life changed forever. For me, this became deeply personal. In August 2025, our community experienced a heartbreaking water-related tragedy. Around that same time, our neighbors survived a frightening boating accident on Lake Sammamish because nearby swimmers acted quickly. That changed how I viewed water safety. I realized prevention cannot begin after an emergency. It must begin before families ever enter the water. So in September 2025, I started the Lake Safe Initiative, a youth-led, community-powered effort focused on prevention through awareness, life jacket accessibility, rescue readiness, clearer communication, and family education. Today, we're proud to work alongside 19+ partners united by one belief: prevention must be proactive. And this Friday, May 15th, many of these partners will come together at Lake Safe Confluence at Lake Sammamish State Park to help families learn practical water safety skills before the summer begins. This proclamation matters because awareness changes behavior, and behavior saves lives. When a community comes together around prevention, we have the power to save lives. Thank you for your leadership and commitment to keeping Sammamish families safe. Because I believe the heart to serve, the call to lead, and the courage to engage equals to service leadership. Every lake, every life, the Lake Safe Initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, and you thank us for our leadership, but thank you for yours. All right, do we have anyone online for pre-registered public comment?
We do. Per the reasonable accommodation policy, if you have pre-registered and wish to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. Pre-registered commenters will be unmuted in the order they have raised their hands. You will have 3 minutes to provide comment, and we ask that you please start your comment by stating your name for the record. One moment while I promote the first commenter. Whenever you're ready.
James Eastman, East Lake Sammamish Parkway. Hey. It's been a long time coming. I've owned land 21, 22 years somewhere in there on starting there at the Parkway. And I'm glad my name is on your guys' study session for tonight. I look at my land, a lot of it, the majority of it is not suited for a heavy development, but there's a lot of factors that come into play as far as environmental factors, stormwater areas that can be developed. I've dreamed to connect the plateau to the lake with a trail. Northern portion of the Emerald Necklace Trail could potentially evolve into a bike trail. Met with some community groups. So far, I'm anxious to get going, working with them, anxious to work with the neighborhoods around me to see if we can come up with something collaborative. As far as that being aligning with the work plan, I'm not super excited with how late the dates are, but that's okay. I can get started now. Like, I'm good with that. Some things that trouble me though is the fact that we do these goals every year and then we undermine ourselves. Or we undermine each other. I don't know if we can look back and see the city staff and council ever working together towards their goals and staying on them. And as far as I can remember, at least in the last 7 or 8 years, it's been very combative as far as that goes. And even with the residents, and I think most recently was the Inglewood debacle. As an outsider, I have no idea where that came from or what that was about or what goal that accomplished. But I did have a question I put out there to Public Works. I have it's a subdivision, a short plat that should be very easy to develop. As a litmus test for me and my brother to try to work with the city. And it's in a neighborhood where there's over 100 homes and it requires 2 access points. And we have 3 for fire trucks, but the director came out with a determination saying you need 2 public access points. So I called the director, 14 months ago on this. I still can't get an answer on whether or not where the city's put a gate as an access point. I was told to put in for public guidance, did that, no answer. It's told to do a director's interpretation, put in for that. For 9 months, I went back and forth with the city trying to get an answer. And they said, well, we already answered it with our original director's interpretation. We'll put your money back. So my point is, I'm trying to do something very easy and collaborative with the city. And there's all these different games going on where we got to get those fixed and we got to get on the same page. And I so want to just do this, full 100 acres, but we got to fix like aligning ourselves with the staff and the city
Thank you
council
for your
and
comments.
even people like me. So let's get everyone on track with city goals.
Thank you, James.
We have one more pre-registered public commenter. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, City Council. Paul Stickney, Sammamish. Back in 2016 or 17, when Jane Garrison was on Planning Commission, and if any of you happen to know Jane, she was a lot of fun and very direct and enthusiastic. And early on in her tenure on the Planning Commission, she said, I want something inspirational. I want something I can get excited about. I want to come up with a vision for the city that, that benefits all of us. Now I'm going to switch gears and get to the other side of that equation. And rather than be super excited, just be super clear. Today I turned in a 8-page document that the City Council has seen some of the pages on and not the rest, and I turned it all in. It's the 5K is plus A is okay, and I've handed this out at City Council and shown it. I think this is what we get excited about. We have major unmet housing needs for what I call B and C housing, which is homes from 500 to 1.5 million that are different, diverse, and smaller, plus some large condominiums and townhomes over 1.5. We really need affordable housing, and we have those mandates from the state. Meeting internal needs isn't a mandated growth, but it is something that as a community we can decide to do internal growth, because it's not taking away from the region. If you look at the links on these pages and read through this, I hope, and I'm trying to contain my excitement, I'm trying to keep it non-exciting and just kind of straight. If you really understand what this is and what its consequences are, and that over 20 years we will meet less than a quarter of our needs, mostly in centers in what I call net positive, low impact ways. This is a solution to fiscal and many other aspects of where there are perceived issues in the community, and it's achieved in a very small land area, primarily in centers, and most important, underarching, is it's meeting authentic local needs and nowhere near all of them. So give this some consideration to changing the comp plan, because it would turn all the dials in a different direction, that our net impact would be low impact and net positive. Appreciate the chance to speak. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. Anyone else registered?
That is everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember O'Farrell, if you could please read the Boating and Lake Safety Awareness Week proclamation.
Happy to. Thank you, Mayor. Boating and Lake Safety Awareness Week 2026. Whereas boating and open water recreation are an important part of community life for residents, families and visitors in the city of Sammamish, and whereas Lake Sammamish serves as a central gathering place for outdoor recreation and boating, making water safety awareness essential to protecting public health and safety, and whereas open water environments present unique and often unpredictable risks, making drowning prevention and water safety education critical to saving lives. Tragically, boating accidents are most often the result of human error or poor judgment rather than boats, equipment or environmental conditions. And whereas increased awareness of life jacket use, vigilant supervision, practicing safe boating habits and emergency preparedness can significantly reduce the risk of water-related incidents. And now, therefore, to reinforce the importance of boating and lake safety, Josh Amato, Mayor of the City of Sammamish, hereby proclaim the week of May 16 to 22nd, 2026 as Boating and Lake Safety Awareness Week in the City of Sammamish, and urge all residents to learn, practice and help reinforce safe behaviours around lakes and open water. Together we can save lives and make Lake Sammamish safer for years to come.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. And at this moment, we're going to pause and get a photo. If Mudra, if you could please come up and accept the proclamation, we're going to come over here by the flags and get a photo real quick. All right, and Councilmember Lamb, if you could please read the Affordable Housing Proclamation.
Affordable Housing Week 2026. Whereas all people should have access to safe, healthy, and affordable homes within communities that provide opportunity, and whereas the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development defines affordable housing as, quote, housing on which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of gross income for housing costs, including utilities, and whereas the State Department of Commerce projects that by 2044, King County needs nearly 200,000 net new housing units for households at or below 80% of area median income. And whereas studies have found that each $100 increase in median rent results in a 15% increase in homelessness in metro areas and a 39% increase in homelessness in nearby suburbs and rural areas. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated many existing financial constraints for low and moderate income households, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recognize safe, healthy, and affordable housing within communities of opportunities as key social determinants of health. And whereas everyone benefits from affordable housing, including people who reside in these properties, their neighbors, businesses, employers, and the community. United to raise public awareness, people, organizations, and communities throughout King County are participating in local Affordable Housing Week activities to elevate the critical need to create healthy communities with ample affordable housing. Now, therefore, Josh Amato, as Mayor of City of Sammamish, hereby proclaims the week of May 18th through the 22nd, 2026 as Affordable Housing Week in the City of Sammamish and commit to actions and efforts to ensure Sammamish residents can live with dignity in safe, healthy, and affordable homes. So I'd like to add that Affordable Housing Week is being hosted by the Housing Consortium, which is a nonprofit in Seattle and King County, and they're doing a week-long series of educational and advocacy events. And I looked at some of the topics that they're covering. A lot of these events are virtual, so they're both virtual and in person. Some of the topics include preserving affordable housing. There's a workshop for people that are interested in buying an affordable unit. And there's a couple of walking tours that also sound interesting. One is a tour of the Bell Red neighborhood in Bellevue and a condo project in Finney Ridge. So the events actually start this weekend from May 15th, and I'd encourage people to attend.
Thank you very much. We have next our fiscal sustainability conversation with Vicki Carlson, who's on her way up.
All right, good evening, Council. Vicki Carlson, Finance Director. Let's see if I can hit the button the correct way this time. So tonight we're going to be continuing our conversation about fiscal sustainability. A few agenda items to talk to tonight. We do want to recap the issue in front of us, which is the operating budget in the general fund. That is where the structural imbalance exists. And we're going to talk through at a high level, really there's three different options to address the issue, right? If you want to maintain the same level of services, it's adding revenues to cover the current cost. Or if you want to live within the existing revenue options, then it's a reduction and eliminations of current services that we provide. Those are the two bookends, or somewhere in between. So just to recap what the structural imbalance is, it is in the general fund and it is on the operating budget side. It is that ongoing revenues are not projected to meet ongoing expenditures after the end of the next biennium. It is a structural problem and it results because our biggest revenue source, which is property tax, is capped at 1% plus new construction. And we know that CPI is far higher than that in a lot of our expenditure sides. So it is a structural problem by design. Many of our other revenues that we have are also restricted for growth, or they're highly elastic, meaning they expand and contract with the economy and changes consumer behavior changes. We don't really have a good revenue source that grows at the same rate of our costs do. And again, revenues are growing at a slower rate of expenditures. We are not the only city facing this. There are a lot of local governments that are in the same situation across the state, in fact, across the country. We have taken action in the past that has bought us time to address this through budget reductions and the implementation of the utility tax. If you remember, the Fiscal Sustainability Task Force had suggested three-pronged approach to address the issue. The first one was budget reductions, which have been implemented and are in effect. The second one was implementing the utility tax, which did take effect beginning of this year. And then the third one, the task force had recommended a voter-approved measure, and then staff had recommended the Metropolitan Park District. So what we want to do is we want to understand your questions and ideas so that we can continue to refine the budget and also get community input into this process. Last meeting, we had the Q&A matrix that we've answered questions. We put that in your packet. We would like to continue that process. So we'll be continuing to capture your questions, comments, ideas, and continue just adding to that list as this process continues. So in your packet is a list of all of the revenues that are legally available to cities. It does include all of the revenues, including the ones we currently levy. What we're going to be focusing on tonight are the ones that we don't currently levy, kind of talk through at a high level what those revenue options are. Yep.
Sorry, for the record, Rachel Bianchi. Before we jump into revenues, I just want to kind of give a little overview of tonight. Vicki mentioned the three different options, right? Revenues to fund current services, reductions, or something in between. We're going to go through all three of those options here, starting with revenues, but we are also going to talk about other things as well. So I just want to make sure we all understand that. And then at the end, there'll be some discussion questions. I do want to say that one of the things that we are here tonight asking for is some consensus direction on different things. So I'm going to, for Vicki and her staff, they're putting together a budget, right? They are implementing a new ERP system, right? Not to mention all of the other stuff about paying bills and things like that. And so a lot of the work to identify additional information about revenue takes a significant amount of staff time, right? And so respectfully, we would like to do that for revenues that have an option with 4 or more of you, right? And so if there are some revenues that we're going to discuss that are just not on the table at all, that's going to be something that we're asking for your help today, because staff does not have capacity to do all of the analysis on every single option that's available. So that may be a little bit of a theme for the night. I'll give you a preview. So I just wanted to set a little bit of context before we jumped into the detail. So thank you.
Thank you for that. So the first ones we want to focus on are the 2 largest revenue sources that we would expect to generate more than $3 million. And there's really 2. They're both voter approved, and they are both property tax levies. One of them is the excess M&O levy, which would allow us to increase above the 1%. It can be temporary or permanent, up from 1 year to 10 years. And the 10 years is new. It used to be up to 6 years. So the state legislature did give us that option through 10 years. Must be spent in accordance with what we specify on the ballot measure, right? So we have to go to the voters and say, this is what we want to use the excess M&O for, and that's what it would be used if voters said yes to it. Metropolitan Park District is also a voter-approved measure. Any city can form an MPD, and that would be specific to our parks and recreation programs and facilities. Both options are scalable. It depends on how much we wanted to allocate to these 2 different revenue sources, or whichever one. And just for context, every penny of our levy rate based on our current assessed value would generate about $357,000. So as an example, if you wanted to generate $5 million in either the Metropolitan Park District or the excess levy, that would be asking voters for about 14 cents. So just to kind of put that in perspective. So again, every penny is about $357,000. Both are voter approved. Both come with significant staff time and some cost, as there's an education campaign. And then, of course, voters need to say yes to it. Those are the 2 largest ones that we don't currently take advantage of. In the medium revenue range, and this is very, very difficult to get a good solid estimate for, but it is we put on this list of a range from $1 to $3 million, and that would be a business and occupation tax. That is a tax applied to the gross revenues of businesses located in Sammamish. That is a very heavy lift to not only get in place, but also to administer once in place. It would require at least 1 additional FTE, most likely 2, in order to administer it long term. Based on our businesses that we have now and what we know, it's probably, we would be lucky if it generated $1 million, just because we do have such a small commercial base within the city. And having just brought this forward into another city, I know it does take significant work to not only put it in place, but also to manage it once it's in place. So this is the really viable option for that medium revenue generation option. For the small revenue options, we do have a number of them. We've listed up here the ones that we don't currently take advantage of. Admission tax is one of them. It's a tax allowable up to 5% on admission charges to various facilities and events. It is unrestricted revenue. Interestingly enough, our code currently allows an admission tax, but it's specifically to movie theaters, and we have no movie theater in the city. Based on our analysis, it appears there is 1 business that would qualify for admission tax, and very high level, we think it would generate maybe between $300,000 and $400,000. It's very difficult to find the financials on that particular business to truly identify exactly how much would bring in, but that's the high level estimate of what we think an admission tax on that 1 business would generate. Cannabis tax is another option for us. It's a quarterly distribution from the state. It's based on population where cannabis retailers are located. We have to allow cannabis businesses to locate in the city. And again, high-level analysis, it looks like it's about $100,000 in potential revenue for the cannabis tax. There are several sales taxes allowable. There's the housing-related services sales tax. There's the local law enforcement tax. Those both can generate, you can ask for sales tax up to 1/10 of 1%. 1/10 of 1% generates approximately $900,000 in sales tax revenue based on our current sales tax collections to date. The first one, the housing and the related sales tax, that is allowable use for affordable housing. We could partially use it to contribute to the structural imbalance for the arch contribution. The local law enforcement, that would contribute to addressing the structural imbalance because that does pay for public safety, which we have both police and fire. A couple other ones, we have this local sales tax. This is a new one, and it's not 0.1%, it's 0.01%, so it's about $90,000 would generate. The allowable use is for assisting children and their families, potentially addressing the structural imbalance through some of our human services grants that we currently have. And then there's the public safety sales tax, again, $900,000 that would contribute to addressing the structural imbalance. One other option that is up there is the red light school zone or speed cameras. We do not have an estimate on how much revenue that would bring in at this point. We would have to start that conversation with determining if there's a safety nexus, because that's the first requirement is, do we have a safety issue that needs to be addressed? That would be the starting point before we could start talking about how much revenue that particular revenue source could potentially generate. So those are the revenue options that we do not currently take advantage of. There are other revenue options available for cities, but they don't address the structural imbalance. They're designated revenues for capital projects or other types of things, so we have not brought them forward on this list. Staff feels that the largest options, the best options for us would be the Metropolitan Park District or the excess M&O levy, because those two, either one of them, if set high enough, would address the structural imbalance. And I want to be clear on this one. Addressing the structural imbalance is through the planning period of 10 years. This is not a permanent solution for, the rest of eternity, right? That's just not feasible the way we're structured with the state of Washington and our taxes, but that would solve it for the planning period of 10 years. Yeah, before we move on to the next, which is expenditure reductions, any questions on revenues?
I do just want to add real quick that we do have revenues in the revenue chart, that some of them actually do bring in a fair amount, but they won't solve the structural issue in the general fund, which is why they weren't addressed here, such as the transportation benefit district. So just want to put that out there.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yeah, thanks, guys. On the large solutions, the $3 million, is that for each one of those, or is that for both of them? Your chart says greater than 3 million.
Yeah, so we just created the chart, tried to isolate, try to put it in buckets. So the top bucket, the M&O, the excess levy, and the Metropolitan Park District would generate $3 million or more. It's scalable.
For both of them, each? It's
Either one.
Either one of
Either
would.
one, correct.
Because the other charts, they're all listed independently, so.
Right, and so the second one, the B&O tax, is kind of that mid-range revenue options, and then the third one was just these are a lot of different revenue options, but they don't generate much at all. You'd have to stack a lot of them together. And interestingly enough, I learned something this week that I did not know before. I did not realize we had a cap in the state of Washington on how much total sales tax can actually be levied. So we do have a cap. We cannot go above, I think it's 10.6%. And I wasn't aware of that. So at some point, you also run out of capacity to add sales tax options.
Got it. And then the admission tax, do you not want to say which business that is? I'm just curious. You don't have to if it's not appropriate.
Well, Councilmember Boyer, I think you asking this question is quite ironic because it is a golf course.
Oh, no. Can we vote now? Got it. Thank you for that.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, thank you. Is there also a cap on how much property tax we can levy? I know things like Eastside Fire and Rescue have limits, or like fire districts have limits on how much they can levy.
Property taxes is very complex. I'd be happy to come back with a list of the different caps that are allowable. There are caps. There's a statutory limit. There's the I forget what the other's called. There are multiple caps, so it is not unlimited.
Okay. And then my other question is, in terms of large revenue sources, I don't see anything here about economic development. And I would like for us to have that discussion, right, in terms of looking at how we fix the structural issue long term, because each one of these is probably still only a short-term Band-Aid, right? We can generate an extra $1 million or $3 million, but eventually our costs for the same set of services is going to exceed that. So can we get information on economic development?
I'll jump in on that. So it is something actually we wanted to get some direction from the council on, because we have heard questions about town center and what town center's impact could be on the fiscal future. So we did reach out to PFM, which is our financial consultants, and ask them what would it cost for you all to do an analysis of town center, right, in terms of a build out over X number of years. So kind of a short term, what we know is in the queue, right, and then what is potential with the plan as it stands today. I want to be clear, and up to 2,000 units only, right? And that would cost about $47,000 to get that work done.
If we're going to ask for that work, I would like to look at not just what the plan is today. I think it's important to understand what it would be up to the 2,000, and then what would it be if it was an incremental, another 1,000, right? Just to see, because at some point those incremental revenues might be better, right? There's sort of the fixed costs, and then there's the variable costs, and the same thing I think is probably true on the revenue side, right? There's going to be an amount of revenue, and then sometimes the rest is gravy. So I think it's important for us to see what that would look like. And I think that's a really important, especially given the information that we got today in public comment that shows how much difference we get in terms of tax revenue versus the infrastructure that we have to build and the cost of that. I think there's a huge differential there that is worth exploring.
Okay, I don't see any other lights on. I see yours, but you've already gone, so I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't anyone else that had.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have another question, but okay.
Okay, I did want to ask, we're at 10.3%. I just Googled it real quick on the sale. Okay, so we have 0.3% left that we can levy, and if King County takes it first, we're out of luck.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, again, I actually wasn't aware that there was a cap, so I looked into it, and that's what I was able to research. And I could definitely look and make sure I understand the full mechanics of that, but yeah, there's a cap. And interestingly enough, Seattle is at 10.55 now.
They're getting up there. Okay. And then I just clarify the cannabis excise tax, it's $100,000 just for allowing cannabis in Sammamish, irrespective of whether there's actually a business here selling. Is that correct?
Accurate, yes. Correct.
Okay.
It has to be, you have to allow producer processors as well. So you have to open it it's not just retail though. I just want to make sure we're all clear.
They're still limited within the bird's eye 1,000
There's
foot.
still limitations,
Okay.
but just want to be clear.
Sure. And then I was shuffling papers while you mentioned the TBD, and it wasn't included because it's not technically general fund revenue.
Correct. It's most of that revenue is restricted for capital. It is definitely street related, so there is a little impact that could go into the general fund, but it would be very insignificant because it is restricted to street maintenance and preservation.
So my recollection was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million transfer or something from the general fund to streets. Is my recollection wrong?
It was a one-time transfer. Going forward, I think we were estimating about $365,000 a year.
Okay.
But that was based on plans from a couple years ago. So as we update the budget, we'll be updating those plans and what that transfer could potentially look like.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councilmember, a couple other people came online here. Councilmember Lamb.
So you mentioned additional economic analysis for development. How soon can we do that? Because I would be really interested in seeing additional information before the end of this budget process.
That is absolutely the plan. If the council is interested in us going ahead and doing that contract, it is within the city manager's authority. But we would have it within a couple of months. It is specific to town center. I just want to make sure we're managing expectations here. So it's not looking at all economic development. It's looking at the build out of town center. I hear what Councilmember Stewart said as well, but I think we also need to figure out what are the definitions of that. And currently, the adopted plan, right, the functional plan that we have is usually what drives things like that. If the council gives us different direction, of course, that's different. But we would need 4 of you to give us that direction.
I mean, I would like to see it beyond just 2,000 because, what are we comparing it to? We have nothing to compare it to at that point. If it was 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000, then we would know, okay, we have something that potentially could help us, within over 10 years. So I don't know how we can make a decision with just at 2,000, and I also think we'd have to include the other sub areas as well, because if we're talking about sub area planning in our work plan, like, it would also help to know what kind of revenue those areas could bring. But it sounds like that's a different conversation when that comes back. Thank you.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't have a question. I just wanted to lend my support to what Councilmember Stewart and Councilmember Lamb said. I was very interested in the economic analysis and that economic development side of the life of the city. I think if we're talking about this budget imbalance, I want to be sure that we are kind of upturning all the rocks and looking at all our options, especially when it comes to new revenue streams. So I'd be very interested, and I take Councilmember Lamb's point about having a comparison in those different levels of units that Town Centre could produce. I think that would be very beneficial. We've never done this before. We finally have economic development chapter in our comp plan too. So I think that in terms of beefing out that chapter, I think it's really, really valuable work going forward and beyond the 10 years, possibly for our financial future. So I would really support that work too.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could you guys go back a slide, get to the small ones, the small list? Yeah, just as an example. Just as an example, for these and the rest of them, the numbers that you show in terms of how much it will generate, is that net?
So most of these would have an upfront cost of the education and getting it in place. We would have to write code, the legislation piece. Most of these, if it's a property tax or if it's a sales tax, those are administered through the state. So once it's in place, then it's just receipting on a regular basis. The big one, actually the big two that do come with additional resources, one is the B&O tax, because I had direct experience with that one. That is very, very labor intensive to not only bring it forward, but also to maintain it once it gets in. And then the MPD potentially, depending on how it's structured. If it's structured the right way, we can do it with existing staff. If it can be structured differently where it takes a lot more staff. So I would say property tax, sales tax, the lift is in getting it in place, and then there's no additional cost after that.
I have a friendly amendment, however, which is the potential for school zone cameras. I know we do not have a estimated revenue up there, but school zone cameras would bring additional costs to the city.
Yeah,
So.
and so what I'm interested in is, and so thanks for this, it'd be great to clarify what is the non-recurring cost, implementation, and then the recurring, if any, so that we could see, because if this is just a gross, right, it could take you, so you're getting $900,000, but it's $800,000 in cost. That'd be a bad idea. So
B&O tax.
Yes. So that would be great. The other thing is, again, I'll pile on and say I absolutely support understanding the impact of the town center as well as all the other mixed use centers, all of our sub areas, as well as anything that's out there, so we can see that impact. I will also say that I hope soon to come up with a suggestion for either an economic development task force or something like that, much like we did with other projects, so that we have some citizen involvement in that. But I'm just planting that seed. So thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think we only have one sub area, which is town center. So if we wanted to do any analysis on other centers, we could, but it would not be a sub area. Because we only have the one sub area. I know we don't have David here, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
We are
but I'm
missing
pretty sure.
David, but I think you are accurate. I will also say that we don't really have functional plans yet for those other areas. So that
And we don't have buy-in that anyone would actually build anything, even if we change the zoning.
So I don't know what we would give the consultant to say, do this analysis around a Safeway or a QFC.
Yeah.
We're not ready for that yet. We will be as when we get into the work plan item, right? That is one of the things you'll see on the work plan. but we don't have enough information.
Yeah.
That would be a WAG at this point if we were to
and
look
not
at the other
opposed to it. Like, I
areas.
understand the desire to have that data, but I would agree, I'm not sure that we have enough information to make reasonable estimates on that. But I would like to see multiple sort of stages, if you will, of the town center or sizes so that we can start to see what those sort of fixed costs and fixed revenues are and what the variable ones are. Because we may find when we look at, here's how much it costs to do the development part of the economic versus the economic gains from it, we may find that, a small increase in the number of units could yield a very large windfall in terms of revenue, even when you look at maintenance and things over the long term. So I do think that's important, and I don't think we get that if we just look at one number. One number.
And this is where
So
respectfully,
animated.
right, on staff's behalf,
Yep.
right, because we have a functional plan that has a 2,000 limit, right, we would need policy direction from you all for this study only, to look at a different number, right? Because our functional plans, and that is
Yep.
what we would hand over. So if there's a majority of you that is interested in looking at an increment above the 2,000, we are happy to put that in the work with the consultant, but we're going to need to hear that from
Given that we're a study session and we're not supposed to make motions and take votes, do you want to do it next week, or
you
can we
do
just
head nods for something like this?
So I personally would like to see 2,000 and 3,000 because I think we can extrapolate beyond the 3,000 should we need to, and I think that gives us a little bit bigger scope, but not too much scope creep. So that would be my personal preference. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts.
Yeah, I was thinking more like even further gradations of that, because the comp plan has so many in the town center as well as in mixed-use centers. So I need to see the gradation, not just those two numbers, because if you figure that out, I'm sure we can either extrapolate or interpolate between what we come up with.
Deputy Mayor.
Sorry.
More gradation, more than just two data points, rather than just 2,000 or 3,000. Do it every 500, right?
We'd have to find out what the cost would be associated with that.
Oh,
but
no doubt. But you were asking for
Yep.
other views on that, because I think I want to know, is that curve linear, right? Or is it a multiplier as it goes up? It'd be
3
great.
points would be enough.
maybe I propose is there consensus for, or is there majority for more than 2,000, right? And more than 2 data points. Does that get at what you were?
Less than 2,000 also?
Well, we would.
Council, if we could let other people go here. I've got another light on, and then we can come back to solid proposals here. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I would not support doing anything other than what is in the comprehensive plan. We committed to 2,000 units, and I just even to understand the economic impact of that would be beneficial for us and give us a clue whether there is even a hope of finding economic development in the town center to support our fiscal deficit. I really believe that the property tax that would come from higher property values is not sustainable. It's going to be limited to the 1%. So, and there are costs involved in higher density projects that aren't there for single family. And so there's just a lot to learn. It would be great to have the information on the existing plans.
Councilmember Treen.
So I would, I'm going to be careful here because I don't support the economic plan in the first place. So I thought it was a waste of our money to do it at this time where the city's sitting. So with that being said, I would even say that I would look at it at like 1,000 dwelling units and how much commercials in the town center. Look at 1,500, look at 2,000. If you want to go above the 2,000, then you'd definitely have to show me where the benefit is to the community based on the infrastructure costs that it is going to take to do that. So I'd even look at it more of how much business or real economics, where's the businesses going to be and how many of them would actually come into the town center, not the dwelling units. because the dwelling units is 2,000. And then my third point would be is that it's a 10-year window that we're looking at. So how in 10 years, where's the town center going to be in the next 10 years? Based on, if I look at its back history, I would say in 10 years, we're not going to have much of an economic plan to have to worry about. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go and then we'll open up the next round here. I'm opposed to doing any sort of calculation on what the town center would bring in or any other area. I think that the time horizon we're looking at is too short for that proposal, that report to be very beneficial to us in this exercise right here. I also think we're going to get just as good of an answer by creating a couple different scenarios of what the mix of the commercial is going to be in the town center, and then doing a square footage analysis of what the revenue would come in, and then figuring out what our sales tax is going to be. We have no idea if it's going to be a bunch of real estate agents or a bunch of little coffee shops or what. So and when that gets built out, we have no idea what the economy is going to look like and what people are going to want. So I don't think us spending any money at all to figure that out is going to get us a better answer than us sitting at an Excel spreadsheet and doing a best guess based on our current layout in Sammamish. We also know how much a house brings in and how much a mixed-use center brings in. Mary just showed us there, and we can also do our own analysis. We don't need to spend $50,000 getting data points that we aren't even going to be, that is not going to be utilized in the time horizon we're looking at. So I'm opposed to any analysis like that. I understand it has benefit in the town center conversation long term. It has no value in this budget conversation here within the horizon we're looking at. So I'd be opposed to looking at any number, much less going higher than what we've committed to the public. So. Anybody else? Okay, Councilmember Stewart.
Sure. So I would like to see 2,000, 2,500, and 3,000, because I think to Councilmember Boyer's point, seeing 3 data points will give us an idea if it's linear or not, and 2 points won't. We need to see the fixed costs, the estimated revenues, and then the ongoing maintenance costs. Again, estimates, we know that those will be ballparks, but that will give us comparison as opposed to looking at what those compared to our actuals of supporting that type of housing in single-family homes around the city. So if possible, to try to plot that out on a timeline. I don't know if we can. I think that when we look back at how long it's taken the town center to develop, part of that has been because for much of that time, the city was under a development moratorium. And so some of that is within our control. If we just don't block it, then it will probably develop a little bit faster. So I don't know if that's comprehensive enough and specific enough. Again, I do think if we can keep it narrow, and you can come back after you talk to the consultants, but if we can do that and get that information during this budgeting cycle, I think that's really important, because even if the revenue comes in 10 years from now, again, all of these are just Band-Aids. They don't solve the structural issue. They just kick the can a little bit further down the road. Thanks.
Councilmember Lamb.
I also support moving forward with taking a look at 2,000, 2,500, 3,000. I'm a little surprised hearing this conversation to not move forward and to actually look at less commercial. We are looking at these spreadsheets that show nothing but taxes on businesses and taxes on property taxes, all of which are regressive. And so it is sort of beyond me that we wouldn't be looking at more economic development to just improve our fiscal sustainability. And quite frankly, the NPD, like you said, is only going to be up to 10 years, and we have to make sure that we're fiscally sustainable beyond that. So I think this analysis is much needed. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. The idea that higher density and more development would somehow relieve us of our fiscal deficit is ridiculous. You just pointed out to us that all the cities in the region are dealing with the same problem. That includes Redmond, Issaquah, Bellevue, Seattle. So it isn't a matter of if we just had enough growth and development, we would be happy. It's all of them have their own challenges, and the bigger you get, the more costly it is to have to provide police and fire protection, which is the majority of our budget. So I don't see it as a panacea. I would say if for some reason the majority of council wants to walk down that path and spend more money on it, I would ask that I be allowed to participate, that we have an actual economic task force, that we can have some analysis beyond just those who are so excited about having a growth at the town center.
Deputy Mayor, if I could put you on the spot and ask, are you supportive of the proposal or not, just for staff's clarity?
Not at all.
Okay. Councilman Burrow-Farrell out.
You know, I don't necessarily see economic development as a panacea, but I think that we owe our residents the fact that we look at everything. And because everything that we're suggesting for revenue sources, as we all know, is another form of tax. And I feel like a lot of us are feeling these days like we're all taxed out. And so I think it's incumbent on us as representatives of our community to look at other alternatives, albeit them alternatives that may not generate revenue far into the future. But I think we owe it to the people who elected us to look at all of these things and to kind of take and to get expert opinion and to kind of take a deep dive and look at these things and say, is there something else that we have not looked at that could generate the city some extra money? Yes, other cities are struggling, but every city's makeup and issues are different. And we have never gone down the road of looking at economic development as a city. And we have yet to do that work, and we need to do that work. Like other cities have done that work, I'm assuming, because they have commercial and industrial cores, and so they have that revenue and they know that business. We have never done that. We have focused on other things to build our city, and it's time to do that, in my opinion. So I support what Council Members Stewart and Lamb and Boyer have been suggesting, and I think it's time to start working on that.
So, Council, if we could stop the conversation here. It sounds like we've got 4 people in support of this. We could do this all night, and I think staff has heard, looking at you, Rachel and Vicki, do you have enough?
I believe we do.
Okay, and Council, are we okay moving on to the next item?
It's so funny how I always
Okay,
get cut
thank you.
off, but thank you.
Remember, go that way. Towards Amber.
Well, we'll be continuing the conversation as soon as I can advance that.
One more.
One more. There we go. Okay, so we had a robust discussion on revenues, and I appreciate the conversation. So now we're going to talk about the other bookend, which is if we want to stay within our existing revenue sources. And what I have for you tonight is an example of what budget reductions would look like. This is a hypothetical example only. It is a $5 million budget reduction, and when we get through the specifics of it, I will show you what the graph looks like. And so what we did is we took $5 million out of the budget after adding inflationary increases for the remaining programs, because, right, whatever's left, we still have cost increases there. We held police and fire, which is about 38% of the budget, harmless in this example. And a $5 million reduction would result in cuts to services, and depending on which programs were touched, it's anywhere between 20 and 30 staff. There's no way of getting out of this without reducing staff levels, and it would require us to get out of lines of businesses. The $5 million would affect a range of services and programs. I do have a list of preliminary programs in the packet, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But those are the programs and services that will be impacted. And you'll see on the graph that it pushes out the conversation for a couple of years. By 2032, even if we did a $5 million reduction starting next year, that $5 million repeated every single year, plus the CPI increases to that, we'd be upside down again in 2032. And so this is what this looks like. The green line is the revenues, and we have the same problem, right? The revenues just don't increase very fast. You'll see the expenditure in 2026, it's about a $60 million budget. And again, this is focused on ongoing revenues. This is not the capital piece, because capital is covered with one-time revenue. And you'll see that in 2027, a $5 million reduction goes down to $59 million, and that's because we do apply the inflators to the remaining services and programs. If we had a true $5 million budget reduction from $60 million down to $55 million, that would actually result in a $9 million budgetary reduction. And so a lot more programs and services and a higher number of staff would get reduced. But again, you see the lines crossed again at the end of 2031, beginning of 2032. So a $5 million reduction, it pushes out a couple of years, and we're right back to having the same conversation. So we're looking for a more, again, not a permanent solution, but one that gets us past the planning years of 10 years. Any questions on this piece before I move on to the next slide?
Councilmember Treen.
$5 million every year.
Yes, $5 million every year. So what I did is
or every biennium.
Every year.
Every year.
Every year, plus the inflators, because everything inflates, right? So I took the same $5 million and inflated that as well.
So what happens if it's 10?
It just pushes it out a couple more years, another year or two.
No, if I do, instead of 5, what if I were to do 10 million? A reduction of 10 million every year. Does that put me out 10 years?
That is significant reductions in services.
I understand.
And I don't have that graph. I would be happy to put that together if council wants to see what a $10 million reduction looks like.
I'd love to see that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Councilmember Boyer.
Vicki, I don't know if you're going to get to it, but I was wondering, just in simple terms, and I think it's what Councilmember Treen was getting at too, is, you want the slope of these to match, right? That's what we're after. So what's the magnitude of our problem? Is it what you said, $5 million every year?
$5 million is an example to show you that if there's no interest in adding revenues to maintain the current level of services, that the example shows that this is significant reductions in services.
Got it.
So that's all, it's an example.
Yeah, the example.
And once you come to consensus on how you want to address this problem, whether it's new revenues, whether it's staying within existing revenues, or whether it's that combination of, once we have that direction, we will then build the budget and show you and come to what that needs to look like to get that planning period for 10 years so that we're right side up.
Because to show the slope of both of these might change based on what we do.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, and I was going to say this earlier. I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead. I don't know what you're going to get at next, but you're talking about either turning those two levers. What about improving how we do things? Is that one of our choices too? Right? You're saying revenue, expenditure, combination of both. What about doing better with what we have? Is that in here somewhere? Like technology or better solutions or?
So I would say we always look for ways to do things better, but we are very lean right now. So any changes is not going to move the needle. We're not going to have a $5 million in process improvement that is going to get us out of this.
Okay, that's my question.
I mean, this is a significant issue that needs to be dealt with, and we are very, very lean already. As we're building this budget, we are digging into the details, and when I get to the program list, which I think is a couple slides from now, I'm going to speak to that process, but we are breaking down the budget into excruciating detail, identifying what is legally required, what is functionally required, what is discretionary, what is revenue backed, what is one time, what is ongoing. So we will be able to slice and dice this budget multiple ways. And you will also see each program and what the FTE count is. You will begin to see how lean we are with these programs and services that we provide.
Got it. So thank you for that. So going forward, if you just did the MPD and the excess M&O levy only, would that solve your problem, our problem?
One of them.
We only do one.
You only need, if you had one of those.
Correct.
Okay, thank
And
you.
it would solve it within the planning period.
Yeah, the 10-year.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Council, if I may, really quickly along those lines, I think this is a key part, and this is one of the we keep talking about at the staff level about coming back to is one of the things that we need is a revenue source that's going to grow, that can grow as much as inflation grows. And so that's really what we're talking about if council chooses to go with a revenue option, a lot of these, and I'll use the utility tax as an example, and I know you all have heard me say this in other conversations, but once it's in place, it's relatively static. It doesn't grow year over year. And so we wind up plateauing again and then running into this same problem. So the biggest problem out there is that we're not able to grow with inflation, and that whether it's the levy lid lift or whether it's an MPD, both of those afford the opportunity, at least for that 10-year horizon, to grow with inflation so that you can actually keep up with costs. And that's the biggest key. And as we talk about this, I just want council to keep in mind that that's one of those pieces that inflation is going to continue to grow no matter what we do, and we have very little control over how to address that. So one of those pieces is, can we find something that actually will keep up with it?
And both those two do it?
Yes, separately. They're different ways of getting to the same outcome.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, can you back up with a 5 million reduction you mentioned, and I didn't take notes fast enough. How many staff members? 20 to 30
20 to
staff?
30. It would depend on the staffing levels and what program is involved.
Okay.
But it's broadly, it's 20 to 30.
Right. And then going back to the next slide, and Scott was talking about this, and Councilmember Boyer, I think you brought up a good point. If you want the slopes to be the same, you need a revenue source that grows with inflation. And while I'm not opposed necessarily to reviewing the Metropolitan Parks District, that is not one that will do that, right? That is a moving the point, but it is just a property tax again. And while we can increase it if we want to, it is still a property tax. It is still a regressive property tax. And there are limits on how much, whether there are legal limits on how much we can tax property, there are functional limits on how much we should and how much people can bear in terms of taxing property. So that's where I would argue that economic development is one that we can look at to see if and how that may adjust the curve on our revenue scale. Nothing is a panacea, but we should be scientists before we're theorists and look at, for these ongoing revenues, right, when we develop in different ways, do we increase taxes on one sphere and reduce the cost, right? Doing things better means things like, hey, can we build less and maintain less infrastructure, right? Those are things that will reduce those ongoing costs. So what are the revenue sources that are not property tax, just so I can put it out there, that could potentially grow with inflation?
We don't have one.
Even sales tax doesn't move with inflation because as costs of goods go up, sales tax revenue increases.
Well, we do have sales tax. However, this community has made decisions about how it wants to be and grow, and that doesn't include a Costco or another opportunity or car dealerships, things like that, that are really what other cities use. We have, with largely smaller, a high-end small restaurant, I think we heard during the fiscal sustainability task force brings in $40,000 a year.
So but that's something we'll get when we do this review with the consultant, right?
We will look.
Okay.
My recollection is that town center is limited to, there is a limit to the commercial space available. So then therefore.
But they'll look at those commercial spaces.
But so then therefore that, I do not think that sales tax is really a place in this community unless we make fundamentally different decisions about how we want to be. That could be something that would really be sustainable and grow over time.
Okay. But so we don't have, so Scott's saying we need a revenue source that can grow with inflation, and you're telling me one doesn't exist.
Well, you asked specifically that's not property tax, right? So one of the things that the legislature has done over the years, and I know we've talked about this individually, but I think it's really important is, once they codified 747, right, which limited the 1% property tax, then they provided all of you, right, with all of these different a la carte options to go to your community and say, if you want this service, here's another way to pay for it. And that's how a lot of our neighbors have gone ahead and done that. And it has been, Councilmember Stewart, to your point, on the backs of property owners, and it's been largely property tax, right? They've done it for the schools, they've done it for cities, they've done it for fire, they've done it for police, they've done it for parks, right? So that is the limitation of our taxing system in Washington State, so.
Okay. Well, I think all the more reason to see how much an economic development plan can at least flatten or increase the slope of the revenue curve, even if just a little bit, so that we can reduce the burden on property owners. And what that new development will do in terms of raising that that base, right? Because it's 1% plus the new development, right? So that raises your base, which makes that 1% a larger number, even year over year, right? It's 1% of a bigger number. Yes?
It's 1% of your revenue.
Right, but I'm saying, but it's 1%. The property tax levy goes, the base of that
The new
goes
construction
up.
gets added in.
Yes.
And so it's 1% of what you collected the prior year.
Exactly. But if the prior year was bigger, then it's bigger, right? Yes.
Incrementally small, but yes.
Councilmember, your time's expired. We'll go on to the next question if there is one. I don't see any other lights on, so I'll ask my question here. The utility tax, you mentioned it stayed relatively flat, but are we the rates are going to balloon theoretically. I'm assuming that's going to pass. So is that part of our calculus as part of this process?
We do look at the utility tax as we do with all of our revenue sources, and we do look at rate increases, but we also look at consumer behavior, because sometimes consumer behavior changes as rates go up, and so the revenue actually doesn't go up the same amount that the rate increase goes in. In fact, one of our utilities we're seeing declining, and that's cable, because people continue to cut cords. So as consumer behavior changes, even though cable might increase their rates.
Yeah, sorry.
It's just an example. I know you're talking about water and electric, because those are going to go significantly, but cable's a really good example, because cable keeps increasing. I still haven't cut the dang cords, so I know this. And yet you look at the utility tax and it's just declining because so many more people are switching to streaming, which is internet-based, which is not taxed. But the same thing holds true with electric and gas, right? Consumer behavior changes, people install energy-efficient appliances, they do retrofits in their houses, and so they just consume less. And so we can't always count on, just because the rate increased, that the tax is going to increase the same amount.
So I get that there's, I appreciate that there's complexity in estimating, but we're also talking about the potential difference over the next 5 to 10 years of, I don't know, $2 million is a big deal of money when we're talking about a chart that's not that far apart. So understanding what those utility rate increases will do to our tax revenue generation, I think is a piece of the puzzle. I understand cable's decreasing, but it's a piece, and $1 million is a pretty big bite of this sample. I wanted to ask about the ongoing revenue and ongoing expenses chart here. The $5 million, that was a one-time cut in 2027?
It was a $5 million reduction it's applied throughout. We didn't just simply take $5 million out and then put it back in the next year. It is pulled out permanently from the projections.
Sure, but it's not $5 million in 2027 and then reduce $5 million again. So
correct.
Okay, so I'm seeing as a rating, as an increase here on ongoing expenditures, 6%, 6.7, 4.7, 4.5, 4.3%. And then on the revenue, 1.5, 2.9, 0, 2.8, 2.8. I just would like to understand a little bit better about how we got those revenue estimates and the inflation. I know the inflation costs, really tough guess. I can see why you might at 2029 drop the inflation number down. I'm curious how we got 0% growth in revenue between 2028 and 2029. Yep. And I care about this because this chart's roughly the same, but kind of inversed if you just added $5 million from a different revenue source. It's a cut versus an increase. The chart would stay the same. And so is that right? Am I understanding that correct?
So we based our projections, both the revenues and the expenditure, off of the King County Economic Forecast. We went through their document, which is local. So they do the property taxes, sales tax, they do all the major revenue sources, and they are actually projecting a recession in there. So we looked at how they projected their revenues and the major categories of expenditures, and then applied those same things to Sammamish, because we are in King County. And then we made a few adjustments based on what we know specific. Police and fire, right? Police and fire kind of do their own thing. So we made different assumptions for that. But personnel costs, property tax, sales tax, those were all based off of the King County economic forecast.
So you feel this is a sharp estimate then?
I feel it's as good as we can go based on what we know today.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. That's all the questions I had. Council, were there any other questions here? I don't see any.
Okay.
Thank you.
Aha. Okay, so the next slide, I don't have really a whole lot to say about this one, but honestly, we've talked about the two bookends, right? Either adding revenues to maintain current level of service or living within our existing revenue sources and reducing services to meet our needs. The other option is that third mix, right? A mix of options, right? Choose some new revenues, choose small reductions in programs and services. It would still require service level reductions because we've already scrubbed the budget. We've removed out all the contingencies, all the what ifs. So any further reduction, it is a reduction in services. Less likely FTE reductions. There would still be FTE reductions, maybe not 20 to 30, but a smaller number. We would still have staff reductions. And again, just a reminder that some of these new revenues, if that is the decision that's made, they are time intensive to implement. And if the wrong one is chosen, it does require staffing to maintain, tax. But anyway, that's the other option, right? And so as we go through this process, we're going to be looking for what your direction is on how we want to balance this budget, either new revenues, full reductions, which is getting our lines of business, or some combination in between, so we can build that budget appropriately and for that 10-year horizon. So the last thing I want to talk about is we have talked about program budgeting, which is new for how we're going to be developing the budget. So we did include a very draft program list. And what you'll see is it's a little over 50 programs that we've identified along with a high-level description of it. As we are going through building the budget, if we identify a need for a new program because we found a bucket of money that doesn't fit into an existing program, we will create a new program. And then we've also labeled it, which is functionally required, legally required. But I want to be clear on this. This is where the majority of the cost is. Most of our programs have a mix of legally required, functionally required. Sometimes your program is functionally required, but you can have a legally required element of it. So this is where the bulk of the budget fits within those categories. This is also the main program list. A lot of our programs will have sub-programs. So one of the programs you'll see in there is Parks Resource Management. That is our parks maintenance, right? Today, we don't have the full cost of how much it costs to run Beaver Lake Park, Pine Lake Park, et cetera. So we will have sub-programs to detail out every single park because that's where we ultimately want to get to, is to be able to say, here's a park, here's how much it costs to maintain that park on an annual basis. Here is an event. So we have a program called Events. That's our 4th of July event, Rigapalooza, concerts in the park. Today, we don't necessarily have the full cost of each one of those programs. We're developing that. So we have the high-level program called Events, and we're going to be capturing the details so we can come back in the next budget cycle to talk more specifically about those sub-programs. So this is very definitely an iterative process. We have to start somewhere. So this is the program list that we're starting for. And on the right-hand side, you can also see which departments contribute to each program from a budgetary perspective. Because again, programs, it's a different way of looking at the budget. Programs should cross departments, right? Because it's how much does this program cost for the city to provide? And we are building the budget right now, gathering all of these details. It's a very labor-intensive process to do, but I think we're going to have a really good project, a really good product when we're done with this process. And I think you'll have a very transparent budget, far more than you've ever had in the past. So any questions on the draft list of programs? And we are trying very hard to get a general fund budget high-level draft by mid-June so we can further this conversation in a meaningful way.
So specifically, we are looking to try by the third meeting in June to bring you preliminary numbers by program, so that you have an idea as we're going through this process, right, of what your different options could be. So some of it's a little tricky because, as Vicki mentioned, some of the functionally or even some of the legally required do have some of them do have some play, right? Some scale. But I think that those preliminary numbers should help with this conversation, as well as to really ground you all in what do these 3 different options really mean.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I just have a few questions. How many new programs were added in the last 2 years? I'd like to know what new programs have we opted to add in the last 2 years, and what are the costs of those? Because I know there are some, I just don't know the universe of it. And if they're required, don't we have some say in what we do to comply? There's different ways of complying. Some things are really expensive. I think I brought this up in a prior meeting that here we are on a particular issue where we're leading the pack, doing all the work up front. Nobody else has done it yet. We don't have to be the leader and pushing these things, because another way to deal with the budget shortfall, at least in the short run, is to delay things or to slow down the progress on meeting requirements when we're meeting them ahead of time. That's just not necessary, and we really can't afford to. So, and so legally required doesn't necessarily mean everything has to be done like right now. And aren't there other ways to meet the requirements with a different strategy to accomplish the same thing? I guess that goes a little bit to Michael's question about, getting creative about how we're able to deal with the workload that we have. Those are my 3 questions.
Councilmember Lamb.
Oh, I thought you were going to answer those questions.
So, I can try to give a start, but we'll give some more context in the Q&A document. So this program list is not something that we've ever put together before. So we don't have we can give you, are there services that have come online over the past 2 new services? Potentially. I can't honestly really think of anything off the top of my head, because we have made reductions from the previous biennium. I don't think that we are sort of ahead of the pack on anything legally required. I think that actually the impact fees kind of prove that, right? Because we're a year behind now. So, but I will also say, as we are going to bring you our best professional expertise, right? And so if we get something from the legislature that says we need to comply, we're going to bring that forward to you in a way that we professionally think needs to be done. What you all decide to do with that at that point, I think, but that is our role as public servants. So.
May I respond to that?
Yes, yep, you've got it.
I just want to say there's always a good, better, best. There's never only one way to achieve something. So sometimes large consulting contracts aren't, this is one of the reasons I don't support the $50,000 for an economic study. We don't have the money to do those things, so we should try to solve our problems without opting for the, really expensive choices for how to get there. So I've observed a few times where it feels like we are, trying to buy a Cadillac with a Volkswagen budget.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lamb.
So when this comes back to us, will it be clear what the items we can cut are? Because right now when I look at it, it's really just the highly valued but not legally required are the areas that we can cut from. Will it be, like you said, it'll be more detailed out, but is that really the only areas that we'll be looking at, and will that be pretty clear?
None of this is going to be really clear, unfortunately. I want to just walk through the front door with that. But I will just say that I think this is where, and it's maybe not necessarily tonight by program, but we will get there, is to go through and have discussions about what could be potentially reduced. So I remember very clearly at the retreat, right, when there was discussions about things, and police are legally required, right? I do remember there being something on the screen about somebody saying, well, they may be legally required, but maybe we could reduce service there, right? And there was, everybody had many people had a strong reaction to that, right? That is a reality, that you could make that decision. I am not suggesting that in any way, shape, or form, right? But, so my point, Councilmember Lamb, is it isn't all of that clear. What we would like to do is go through, again, not tonight, and say, what are the things that we just don't want to touch, right? And that will be, you'll be much better served with that conversation when you have the dollar amount next to it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to make sure I don't misunderstand this based on what our deputy mayor said. So I really appreciate you showing what's legally, functionally, and legally not required. That's what I meant by discretionary, non-discretionary, right? We have to do that. But if I understand what you said, Rachel, these are scalable, right? Like even as the deputy mayor said, you know, good, better, best, or something like that. Like the chief of police had said before that he's running at 27 officers when he optimally wants 34 or something like that. Is that, are you
many of the legally required are scalable.
Scalable, just like how much of our attorney do we need?
I would say that's probably not scalable.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yes.
I know what Carrie would say too, but.
Indeed. But you guys are going to look at, just because it's legally required doesn't mean it's not scalable. Is that what I heard you say?
That's correct, but that really is a policy, like particularly if we're talking, you know, police services,
okay,
right? That is not something that staff is going to come forward and say that we are going to investigate. That is something that we are going to look for you all to give us that direction.
And are you going to come back with the better, a good, better, best version, or?
We're going to have to talk about that internally, because we do have capacity issues. We are lean and mean, right?
Sure.
So we have to be, I want to be careful about what I'm promising here today, right?
Yeah.
Of what Vicki doesn't, you know, pull out the cane on me. So,
yeah. Okay.
But we are going to be asking you, okay, so is police services a place that you want us to look for reductions? And here is what the potential results of that could be, right? Because the other thing that we're all really clear about is, if we're talking about reductions, we're talking about some things like huge, if we're talking large ticket items like police, right? First of all, there still could potentially be reductions in staff associated with that, right? But if we're talking smaller programs, those we would need to go out of business of those programs, right? And there would be staff associated with it, so.
Okay. And did you say the MPD and the excess M&O, that does vary with inflation?
They're different. They're different.
Oh, those two things are different.
The two things are different. So the excess levy is a 10-year levy, that up to 10 years. Again, to Vicki's point, that's new, right? Where the voters agree to do a higher property tax for a specific reason, right? Often communities will do it for police, right? Other areas like that, right? That doesn't necessarily grow over time, but you construct it in such a way that it gets you for those 10 years. That can be dangerous, however, because you've now just put all of those programs onto that one funding source. And if that 10 years comes by and the voters decide no, then you're out of options at that point, right? Yeah. The MPD is different, because the MPD, once the voters go ahead and say, yes, we want an MPD, right? That has a maximum levy rate associated with it, right? So that's how it would grow, because you don't start at that maximum rate.
Council, are there any other questions? Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, I really appreciate this. I know this is a ton of work, and I also appreciate that, you know, we do have policy decisions to make. For me personally, I look at things like, while we do have some short-term financial decisions we have to make, I also think we should not make bad long-term decisions to solve the short-term problem, and we have to strike a very delicate balance. So I want to make sure that we're very careful about that. We are a contract city, and I appreciate that there's an aversion to writing contracts, but that's why we are as lean as we are, because we rely on contracts. We are literally called a contract city. It does not just apply to police and fire, it applies to everything, and that's why, right, our per capita FTE count is so low compared to pretty much every other city around. Finally, I just want to make sure that we aren't going to create new financial cliffs. If there's a way to avoid that, I just think that that's not, good choices on our part. And so that's why I want to make sure that we're looking at things that will be sustainable. And to answer the Deputy Mayor's question, we created the Sustainability Commission in the last 2 years. And I would argue that while that has a cost associated with it, the cost of not working on our environmental challenges will be infinite to future generations, and that would be a crime against humanity. Thanks.
Okay, don't see any other lights on. I will ask, it's not really a question. I have an issue with the language of highly valued but not legally required. I feel that we are prejudging services and we don't have anything so I would prefer we just use not legally required and not say it's highly valued. I would also like us to, if possible with the budget, understand what, if we funded legally and functionally required at the current level of service, how much money is left, and then what's the delta between that and all of the not legally required services, so that we can then start to say, okay, these fit in with our current budget, these don't, this requires level of service adjustments on these other two categories. I think that would be helpful if we look at, in particular, if we look at an M&O as a potential option, because I would just presume that we would be going to the public and saying, are these not legally required programs actually highly valued to you enough to pay more in taxes for them? I know there's one other city that has opted to do that instead of going for an MPD. I'm happy to talk to you about that one and see if we can learn anything from them. I think they're going on the ballot here very soon, actually, with that. So that's all I've got. I don't see any other lights on, so I think we can maybe move on to the next slide.
Yep, so this is actually the last slide here. We've had a robust discussion already, but this is really a discussion point, talking about what revenues that the majority of council wants us to look into. We did include the question and answer from last time, and if you have any clarifying questions based on the matrix that was in your packet. And we do plan to be back in front of you on June 16th with, again, very preliminary numbers for the general fund. They are very preliminary, though, because we won't have fire increases, we won't have police at that point. We will still be missing, but we're doing our best estimates based on what we know today. So again, very preliminary general fund numbers by program on June 16th is what we're targeting. And then we're looking for council's high-level direction on how you want to address this structural imbalance by July 21st, so we can actually build the budget to meet your policy decision.
Councilmember Treen.
Yeah, thank you. Vicki, so I'll apologize. 10 years might be a little harsh there, but so I just kind of did a little math here and not totally understanding how your program works on that one chart. But if you go 5, then 1, 1, 1, 1, getting to 10 million over a 5-year period of time, just a little sketch I'm doing here. I'd be interested to see something like that, because what I'm looking for is, how do I have a sustainable budget with, in some ways, with the idea of not doing any harm, right? But at the same time, knowing that that's almost impossible to have it be a sustainable budget. There has to be some kind of give and take. And if revenues aren't going to come in, or if we were to reduce taxes, then how do I do that with reducing expenditures? So I'm trying to play that balancing game. So I'm just wondering if instead of just showing me one that's 10 million down, start with the 5 and then take 1 million every other year, and then what would happen? Or if I needed to take 1 million every year subsequent, do I get my 10 years? Thank you.
Councilmember Boyer.
So you guys are looking for some general direction, right? Is that a question on the table?
If there are revenues that we've discussed on the list that we looked at on the screen, that there is not appetite for, that would be helpful for us to know.
Okay. Yeah, Councilmember Stewart is pointing at my screen here, so thanks. It's the last one there. I would say, I'm in favor of some of the larger ones that are on there for revenue. I think the mixed is the way to go. If there is any reduction, it'd be remiss to say don't reduce anything and just turn a blind eye to that. So I guess it's your third choice of a combination. I'm in favor of some type of economic development. I don't know if it'll be in time, but if we have a 10-year window to this, maybe we can do that. I understand, though, it's not going to be a big windfall, right, when we do that because of what we generate. I'm not in favor of more taxes as we have that tax fatigue, but I'm also not in favor of the 1,000 paper cuts that we're going to get by, the Gulf or, some of these other ones that they will generate a very small amount and then have us in perpetuity have some city staff tied to that. Those things I'm probably not in favor of. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilmember Lamb.
So what does the community engagement process look like on this? Will there be something in the newsletter? Will there be a survey in the newsletter? It'd be great if we could have like a larger article on this in the next newsletter.
Well, we do. So it's going out, including the community pulse, which we talked about briefly before, which is in lieu of the survey, but not a survey, right? So this is the opportunity for people who want to opt in and provide their thoughts and information. The first thing that we are focused on is fiscal sustainability. So that will go out in the newsletter that goes out this is May, it's going to hit in June. So
can we get a preview of the questions for the survey?
We're happy to send the questions, the surveys. That we literally did the final wrap on the newsletter today.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Lamb, if I could, do you have any feedback you want to give on specific revenues you do or don't want? Okay. Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to concur with Councilmember Boyer. That's exactly what I'm kind of looking for too. Preferably the MPD, looking at economic development also. All the other smaller ones like cannabis or that B&O tax, I'm really not interested in that. I think that's just going to nickel and dime our residents into the ground. I think if we have a couple of big issues that we can go after, we can communicate it clearly to our community, and this is why we're doing what we're doing, and we have looked at all the other alternatives. But to have a laundry list of this tax, that I think, and I also think it'd be a waste of your time too, and your precious staff time to look at. I think we need to look at something big picture. So I would concur with Councilmember Boyer.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, economic development for sure. I would also, though, say I wouldn't completely dismiss the admission tax. While it may feel like nickel and diming, it's a pretty big chunk for kind of a single piece of effort, and that is also something that is a big environmental issue. So I would like to see us look into that as well. And I'm kind of torn between with the sales tax or additional property taxes. Both are regressive. One you have a little more control over. So I'm a little bit a little bit bummed there. The last time we got an update on the speed cameras, we'd been given an estimate of potentially around $1 million a year. You guys are saying we don't have an estimate, so I guess I'd like to understand more about what we think the range on that speed camera would be. I do know from past police updates that speeding is the #1 police issue in the city. And certainly school zones is a place where we could set up cameras. So I'd be interested in understanding that, because that is a revenue stream that may not be reliable. If that revenue stream went down, while it would hurt our finances, it would be good for our city and our safety. But I'm more willing to tax speeders than I am to tax people just for living here.
So we're just looking to see whether or not there's interest in us approaching the police department and having that discussion, because again, as we mentioned earlier, right, that anything like that has to have a safety related nexus before we could even look into it. So
would it be too much to just ask and find out what that looks like?
There's data associated with it. So it's not an observation.
Okay, I would like to get that just to understand, because again, everything else is just so incredibly regressive that I'm concerned. So,
and this is where we're looking. Again, we're looking for a 4 for all these different things, so that we can make sure we're using staff time wisely.
Deputy Mayor.
So after serving on that fiscal sustainability task force, we chose those top 2 items, the utility tax and the MPD, because they were, they solved, quote, solved the problem. Now I see they really don't solve the problem in the long run, but they're 2 big things we can do that make a big difference. And so I think I still would support those. I'm not sure about the MPD. I've been hesitant about it, but I would like to know more about how that would operate. I'm not in favor of B&O tax at all. We have not enough business here to even try to raise money from that, and it would discourage anyone else from coming. I don't support a transportation benefit district either, because we're already getting screwed on SG3, and we get no benefit from it. So I don't know what benefit we would actually, we would just be paying again for more transportation money that's not really helpful. I actually kind of like the public safety sales tax items, because so much of our budget is eaten up by public safety, and it's something that our public really value. So that I would potentially support a sales tax increase that's dedicated to public safety, especially as we're growing, because I don't know that we're going to be the highly safe place we are today forever. So those are my thoughts on what I like and don't like.
Thank you.
I don't see any other lights on, so I'll go ahead and talk about what I'm interested in. I think I understand the concern about none of these really solve the problem, but that's the hand we've been dealt by the state legislature. And until they solve our tax system, we need to work within the confines of that. And so it's all different options of bad, whether it's tax increases or cuts or a mix of both. No one's going to be happy with what we decide. So we're going to have to make some of the best, worst decisions we can. I think it might be helpful for all of us if we were to have packages of these. So I get the desire to have one and done, 10 years, we're good with an MPD or something else. But understanding if we did 3 of the sales tax, that's $2.5 to $2.7 million. That's half of the MPD we're talking about. How much time does that buy us? And taking into account our fund balance, that gives us opportunity for the MPD or the M&O to fail. So understanding what those different levers we can pull, and not in a vacuum like we're being asked here now, but just, and I'm not asking you to do a lot of analysis, just what you know here now, showing us like if you did package A, package B, package C, what that could potentially mean for you. That way we and the public can get a good understanding of what that looks like. Overall, I'm supportive of looking at an M&O, the Parks District. I'm not supportive of a B&O tax. The TBD I like because we can set specific transportation projects and people, there can be a direct line, but since it's not helping the general fund, we're going to ignore that one. The admission tax, I don't love that one quite as much, so I'd be less supportive of that one. So I'd be supportive of all of the sales tax items, not supportive, but I would want to learn more about all those sales tax items on there, especially knowing now that we only have 0.3% left that we can collect, and King County is going to take it, or we're going to take it from our residents, and I think the residents of Sammamish would be better served by the city of Sammamish having it rather than King County having it. The cannabis excise tax, I support us doing that, but not as an exercise here. I'm generally supportive of taking away that ban anyway, but it's not going to solve the problem. So that might be something we just look at as something down the road, but not as part of this item. I am supportive of looking at the cameras, and the police will certainly have data. One of the contractors that were at, the companies that was at one of the SCA meetings said, hey, we'll come out and put the cameras out there and do the study for you at no cost. I have no idea what that actually means, but they've got a vested interest
I've heard that before.
Yeah, they've got a vested interest in having
I've been in a
good
city
study.
where
So,
we did that. Yep.
Yeah.
Both there.
I'm not supportive of the traffic and parking fines in there, and that's, I hope that helps. That's it. But I really think you might get a better response from, more directionality from council if we could actually see what each one of these as a package might mean for us. But I can't speak for everyone. And that's all I've got.
I think this is helpful for our next steps, and we will be back again. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your work on this. I know trying to decipher from 7 of us what we want is challenging, and then you put a lot of work into putting this together for us. So thank you so much.
Mike's going to need it.
Deputy City Manager, you're here again.
And some of us are never going to leave tonight.
Yeah, that's
just
right.
So you know, I'm going to be
All
here
right.
all night. Getting comfortable.
We'll have a conversation now about council committees. Do you have a...
Wait, that was, you're here all night. Does that mean we need to tip our servers? Is that what you're saying?
As a former wait staff member, absolutely, and do it well, please.
Okay, whatever you're...
I'll just kick us off real quick. I will say we're looking for direction tonight as to whether the council wants to do committees or not. So again, a similar theme, right? It takes time to go back and to put all this stuff together and things like that. So if there is interest from 4 of you to move forward, then we would kick that off. If there's not, then we would hope that this would be tabled and we would move on. So in the packet here today, you have a series of topics for consideration for you all to think about as you're looking at considering the committee. There is a perspective charter that is open enough that it could really go to any committee, right? So we didn't do the specific, this one it has these topics and this one has this topics. That's the next level we're looking for, again, if 4 of you are interested in going ahead and moving to committees. But if there is interest, we would need some direction on some of these other bulleted items that are on the list. So we've had this conversation before. I think you know where the city manager office is on this issue, but we are here to work for all of you. So I'm looking for your discussion and deliberation.
Thank you very much. Would anyone like to kick off the deputy mayor?
I'll kick it off. I think it's really important that we have a Public Works and Transportation Commission of some type. It's a specialty area that has a lot of activity in the city, and the Planning Commission, with all the code activity that's going on, is going to have their hands full. So that's the one. I mean, I think some are more important than others, and that one is just, I recognize that the Planning Commission itself, and our member Syed Safavian is here, that takes specialized knowledge and understanding. And so that's the one that I think is really critical for the city at this time. Maybe some of the others can be addressed at a later time.
So Deputy Mayor, I apologize if I wasn't clear, but this is specific to council committees and to whether you all want to create council committees.
I want to create a Public Works and Transportation Committee that could include a couple of council members and perhaps even it could be a subset of the planning commissioners and a couple of residents to participate. I don't think we have enough attention paid to those projects on the council. It's always very quick, and it's the only ones that get to look at it are the Planning Commission, and it's almost too cursory. That's my thoughts.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Stewart.
I think if we're talking about budgets and how we save money, I don't think we should be adding this right now. A couple of thoughts. First of all, we've already implemented time constraints on council discussions, which is fine. But if we're going to then take discussions off the dais and limit the number of people, I still have grave concerns about that at the moment. But that aside, I just think from a staffing perspective, I think we need to look at the budget and how this plays into the budget. These committees are not free. They take quite a bit of staff time, as you guys have shared with us. And we need to know what we're doing with staff before we add more to their plate, and where does this fall in terms of priorities. So I'm not in favor of committees at this point, especially one that would be really a commission with council members, because that's even more time when you add in members of the public participating as well. So I just don't think now's the right time. I think staff has enough to do to get us through this budget season, and we can look at this after we land a budget if we think staff has capacity for it.
Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we said earlier, I'm in favor of some type of economic development task force. I know, Rachel, this is not your question, but I think that's one thing that's missing. The other thing I think is missing is, as Deputy Mayor spoke of, some type of public works commission. Attending many of the planning commissions, those issues come up, and then it's the wrong group that's there. And I think a lot of those things are kind of misplaced or don't have a home. So I would support that, but I don't believe council committees, as we've proposed them, are viable at this time. So knowing our current condition, I think the disadvantages outweigh the advantages.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to sound like a parrot again, Michael. I have to agree with what Councilmember Boyer says, and I agree with what the Deputy Mayor was talking about, like public works type of commission, transportation commission, and I think because I find the commissions extremely valuable, especially when we get volunteers from our community who give up their time and to get into a subject to kind of support us. But in terms of council commissions, I'm not supportive of those at this time. I don't think it's the right time. I don't think staff have the time to give it the support that it needs. So I would not be in favour of that. I would be in favour of looking at task force for sure, like once-off task force to deal with a particular topic, or adding a commission, maybe a transportation commission, but council committees I'm not in favour of.
Councilmember Lamb.
So I also am not supportive of council committees at this time. I think there's a number of reasons why I don't, which include I think it would be highly inefficient. We would be looking at an additional month of review time for anything that comes to council. There's a lack of transparency when meetings aren't live streamed, and the public doesn't have time to attend 11 meetings. If we're looking at 4 committees and 2 meetings apiece, that's 8 plus the 3 council meetings. That's 8 meetings. That's a lot to keep up with. there's staff time involved, and then there's the cost for a videographer to record the additional meetings. I am also committees. It would take the place of commissions because these committees would act as an advisory body to council, and that's what our commissions are for. So I would be in favor, since we're talking about transportation, a Public Works Committee, I would be in favor of having the Planning Commission take on the additional work of transportation, and that's something I'd like to run that by Planning Commission if that's something that they would want to add to their plate. I was speaking to the chair just last week, and he mentioned that they were light, actually, so it's definitely something to ask them whether or not they would want to take on that additional responsibility. And as for an economic development task force, something like the fiscal sustainability task force, I would be open to that as well, just not council committees. Thanks.
Councilmember Stewart.
I'd be in favor of adding the transportation work to the Planning Commission if they have time. But I think spinning up another commission is just, again, we found out even with the Sustainability Commission, while I think it's absolutely necessary, this is not the time for us to be spinning up new efforts. So if they have time on their agenda, they are also a very knowledgeable group of people. So I'd be in favor of that.
Okay, I don't see any other lights on, so I'll speak to this. And yeah, I think you have your answer on the number of council members in support. I am a little disappointed in the document that came before us. I think it was set up to fail in the way that things were framed. The mention about the quorum isn't accurate. And staff time, while it's in there, is not all it's going to be new or duplicative time. Staff ends up doing a lot of double work. For example, we'd end up with council committees could have vetted several things that we have hit multiple times since I've been on the council: Building 120, impact fees, council rules, community survey, Big Rock Park South, and council goals. Council committees could have spent focused, dedicated time on putting together a package that could have passed at the first time it came before the council, and that would have been a much more efficient use of everybody's time. The other element here is that our role as an oversight body is critical for our city. And when there are 7 of us that all own the solution, no one actually has responsibility because that's too many people. You need people with a name attached to what they are going to be overseeing. We have a crucial role in looking at those items and how the cities are doing. We had a public comment today talking about not getting a response from the city in a timely manner on something. We hear those things regularly, and there's all 7 of us will then reach out to the city manager and ask for feedback. If there was a city council, if we had council committees dedicated to these focus areas, it could be their job and their responsibility to make sure that that happens, that then gets surfaced to the council. I get that it would take, in some instances, more time. I think we'll be more responsive to our residents and do a better job overall. I also don't believe it would have been necessary for each council committee to meet 2 times a month and then have a committee of the whole or study session. Study sessions are completely optional and in many cases probably wouldn't be needed if we're doing our job well on the council committees. Several council committees would have no reason to meet more than once a month, and in the communication legislative, once a quarter would have probably been sufficient for the work that it's doing. So I get we're not going anywhere. I wanted to speak about why I am disappointed, and maybe at some point in the future we can bring this back up, but I'll leave it here for a while. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mike Sugg gets to make his way up here. Rachel, are you staying?
Of course I am. Would
Perfect.
you all be interested in a 5-minute?
Yeah, that's
Since this
any
is gonna
objection to a
probably be
5-minute break? Okay, the council will take a 5-minute break and we'll be back here at 8:30 8:39.
Council, the time is 8:39. Please return to the dais. Thank you.
All right, Council, we are back from our break. To kick us off here, we have Mike Sugg and Rachel Bianchi to talk about City Council goals.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. Mike Sugg, Analyst in the City Manager's Office, Rachel Bianchi, Deputy City Manager. As you'll recall, Council first discussed goals during your February retreats and most recently reviewed them on March 10th. At the March meeting, you provided a wide variety of feedback, both from the dais as well as over email. Staff attempted to reflect what you had provided to us in Exhibit 1 tonight, which shows the track changes to your goals. However, it was quite a challenging exercise, just given the limited consensus that we heard and the larger questions about the overall utility and the purpose of the goals, as Councilmember O'Farrell eloquently spoke to in her April 21st remarks to Council. Given the challenges with the goals, and because Council has expressed interest in the work plan, we thought potentially Council could choose to shelve the goals tonight and just start to look at the work plan. As we mentioned in the agenda bill, Council is not required to have goals. It's really more of a communication tool for you to share your priorities. And so if the Council shifts to the work plan, there may be some themes and some priorities that emerge in that discussion that can be that communication tool that takes the place of the goals, if you decide to go that route. So tonight we're asking for Council's preference on whether to continue working on the goals or to shift to the work plan. If we keep working on the goals tonight, staff will bring the work plan back to you at one of our upcoming meetings so that we're not here until midnight trying to wordsmith both items. If we shift to the work plan, the focus will be on addressing your questions on the work plan that's included as Exhibit 2, as well as on understanding which new work plan items you'd like to understand, or excuse me, which new work plan items you'd like to add. So with that, I will turn to you, Mayor, if there's any additional discussion on which item to focus on tonight, whether it's the goals or the work plan.
Okay, I will just go out of order here and kick it off. What I would like to, Mike, I think you did a great job synthesizing our prior conversations. I know how challenging that was. I think as we're all looking at this, we need to recognize that each of us would do things differently if we were running the process ourselves, and not let the perfect be the enemy of the good here. I think it's very important that we convey to the public what our goals are, even if it's not exactly what we would write if it was just us. So I'm hopeful that tonight we can all compromise a little bit on the ideal and get to a good outcome, even though if it's not exact. So with that, I'll ask if Council has any feedback, if you'd like to hit your button there. Councilmember Lamb.
So I would like to keep on working on the goals, but I will keep my comment really simple, and hopefully this will be fairly easy. I don't have any changes except for housing is to go back to what we had before, which is 5.1, which is for what it was, and then to enhance centers planning and keep that as 5.2. So the first one would be encourage and incentivize diverse housing. Priority 1. Priority 2 is enhance centers planning. And then for financial stewardship, to have 6.1 be fiscal stewardship plan. That would be 6.1, and put adopt program-based budgeting as a work plan item under fiscal stewardship plan. And then for a new priority, it would be lay the foundation for a dedicated economic development program. That is the only the only thing that is not in our goals that is in the comp plan. So I'd like to make sure that we have something for economic development. And that's all I have. Thanks.
So, Councilmember Lamb, you had 2 items, and I want to give Mike an opportunity to take them one at a time to get council feedback so that he can figure out if there's four direction. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think our goal tonight, assuming council does want to move forward with the goals, which it sounds like you do, would be to receive consensus feedback on any of the changes that we're proposing tonight. So if there is agreement from a majority of the council, that would be preferred, so that when we bring the draft back to you, it can be preferably adopted at the next meeting.
Okay, so I think the housing one can be taken first, and I guess give Mike head nods, and he can try to determine which direction we're going on the head nods, if the council has any objections to going that route for that one.
Can you say it again?
So for priority 1, it would be encourage and incentivize diverse housing. And then for priority, the second priority, it would be enhance centers planning. And I'd like to move the examples under centers planning, the work plan items, the town center plan and the neighborhood centers plan up to the work plan items. Oh, actually, I guess they would stay, sorry.
So Councilmember Lamb, if I'm hearing your proposal correctly, it would essentially be going back to what we had before?
Yes.
Okay. Seeing.
Do you want us to go down and take it one at a time, or?
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe that's the easiest way. Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. So I'll just start down the dais for each one of the proposed changes, and Councilmember O'Farrell.
Yeah, I agree.
Councilmember Boyer.
So I guess we're skipping past your original question of do we want to work on these or not, right?
Yeah,
What happened?
That's
Going very
that's in the
quickly.
rearview mirror.
I could do them concurrently. It seems like if this is a barrier for us to do work plans and it pushes us out, that's a problem. But if we do the work plan without goals, I don't know exactly how you do that. I do struggle with this structure, so it's going to be hard for me to contribute.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Boyer. We're trying to get a response on Councilmember Lamb's suggested changes to the goal.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, I'm addressing that because, like I said, it seems like we skipped right over the initial question.
Okay. Then.
So I can respond to that initial question or just continue with an assumption that these goals go forward.
Well, you can.
They will then be. I guess they are what they are. I don't know. The utility diminishes for me.
But I guess what you could choose to provide feedback on Councilmember Lamb's suggestions, or wait until your round, and then you can speak to what you're thinking on the goals. Yeah.
Okay, that works.
Okay, Councilmember Stewart.
I agree with that. Can I add, since we're on the housing, about a measure that I think would also be appropriate, or should I wait for that?
For simplicity, I would wait.
Okay.
That way we can get each one a small bite here.
So I agree with Councilmember Lamb's suggested changes.
I do not.
I don't agree with the first priority that as modified.
So let me understand. So you want me to tell you whether I agree with goal number 5 on housing?
I would
That's
like to,
all you want me to say?
I would like to understand if you agree with Councilmember Lamb's suggested change to this goal.
So no.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm hearing a 3-3 unless Councilmember Boyer, you had any feedback on that one.
No.
Oops, sorry. Well, I'm sorry, Councilmember Lamb. What was the change?
So we're essentially going back to what was originally here.
On priority 5.1 is that?
Yeah, so 5.1 would be encourage and incentivize diverse housing, and 5.2 is enhance centers planning. And the work plan items stay the same.
I'm going to.
Okay, and then your next one, Councilmember Lamb?
And my next one is under financial stewardship. Priority 5.1 would be fiscal stewardship plan, and put a work plan item underneath that for adopt program-based budgeting. And then the new priority 6.2 would be lay the foundation for a dedicated economic development program.
Say that again, please.
Okay, then I'll start with Councilmember O'Farrell. Councilmember Boyer?
If you're just going to say no to all of them, can we resolve Councilmember Boyer's? Because I think he's just saying no because he doesn't agree with the format right now. And
You're asking me to, you asked me to go down the list when I don't, much of this, I don't know how useful it is, so I can abstain. Doesn't that mean that it's a yes for everything? Isn't that what we decided? Because it becomes pretty impotent for me, really.
Councilmember Lamb, if you're okay, can we pause this and resolve Councilmember Boyer's concerns? Sure. Okay, sure. Thank you. Councilmember Boyer, if you want to speak to your thoughts here, we can do that. Thank you.
Yeah, so the question I think that you guys started with was, should we forego this and just move to the work plan, I think was one of the choices. At least that's what was in the packet, right? I could see us working some of these, but not have it hold us back on looking at the work plan. Because it seems to me a lot of this doesn't drive the work plan. What I mean by that is that when you have these goals that are, as they were described to me as aspirational, that means that they're so broad that you could fit anything and everything underneath them, right? They're so to me, when we first started to do this, we said, let's get these goals that are specific, that would drive specific things. But when they're so broad, they don't drive specific things. Just whatever you can throw in there gets thrown in there. And I just don't think that's functional. I think that we have a vision for the city, and now there you have something that is forward-looking. This aspirational piece of it might be forward-looking, but it seems like then we've moved what would be specific into these what we call priorities. Mm-hmm. I'm also struggling with that there's only 2 per. As life would have it, gosh, what if there were 3 or 4 that would make sense? So we're just bulking them up into 2. I don't know why that happens like that. And the other thing is that the metrics should be the quantitative representation of the goal statement, and they're not. So all of those pieces together, I really struggle with. But if we're going to proceed with putting this together, I guess if I'm the lone standout, I can concede. As I said earlier, and when we were there on that Saturday, I think 2 of these are really our core values. They're not goals, and I would put them in terms of at a much higher value because they influence everything. I would make them senior to the rest of these. And because I find them very difficult to measure, they're things that should span every one of these goals. If we put them as they are, it relegates them to something inferior because then they don't span the other ones. Or we have this weird situation where, oh no, they're matrixed across the top. It's like, well, then why not make them our core values? When I look at other cities, they will do that. Other cities have core values and then they have goals. I've seen that in so many other places that I've consulted with. I guess we could continue. I will just have very little to say on us wordsmithing by committee on each one of these, and then again struggle with only 2 priorities as we call them per, because some are so general that they're not actionable. And then again, the measures to me are not really measures that you would use to actually quantitatively assess the goal statement. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going back to, at this point, Councilmember Lamb's suggested change to the financial stewardship goal, and we had Councilmember O'Farrell saying yes, and then Councilmember Boyer, I don't know if you want to weigh in.
No, thank you.
No, you don't want to weigh in, or?
Yeah, I'm not going to weigh in.
Okay, Councilmember Lamb.
Or Stewart.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Councilmember Stewart. Thank you.
I think Councilmember Lamb agrees with herself. So you were just suggesting, because I feel like I lost the thread, that the fiscal stewardship plan would be the priority 1, and then adopting the budget base would be 2?
Adopting the budget would be a work plan item.
I see. And then what was number 2 then?
Number 2 would be lay the foundation for a dedicated economic development program. Actually, this is from the comp plan, aimed at fostering sustainable economic growth, diversifying the local economy, and enhancing the overall economic well-being of the community.
I definitely agree with those. I think you're right. Adopting a program-based budget is a work plan item, not a priority. So I'm good with that. I think the measures shouldn't be the measure of activity, but the measure of success. So I would like to see us try to get those measures to be more like the revenue and expenditure per capita and how that's changing. I'm good with that. We could look at money saved or revenue increased or things like that, but just to have a measure that says we adopted a 10-year, it to me is not really a measure.
I'm supportive of the change. Councilmember, I'm Deputy Mayor.
I don't want to spend all night wordsmithing these things, and so I'll support the change. There are quite a few things in here that are not, that I would wordsmith as well, but I don't want to spend our time. I'd rather work on the work plan.
Councilmember Treen.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Boyer, and I think that there are definitely 2 goals here that could be elevated to a value, and that really 2 priorities, and then one of them being on this particular one. I don't support this one because to just make it 2 priorities and then one of them being an item that is so far in the future, it's not really even a goal that can be obtained in the next 2 years. And so the whole idea here would be moot to me. So I don't support the change and would look to do something different on our goals. Thank you.
You have your button pressed. Did you want to?
Just would like to talk on the next issue. Yeah.
Okay. For me, for the goal, there's no other lights on. I just want to, any other? Councilmember Stewart.
Oh, you can go ahead, Mr. Mayor. It's fine.
Okay. The only change I think I've got noted here is priority 2 under housing. I put the TBD item to simplify permitting and regulatory understanding. The intent here is we've got a lot of strong regulations that are hard for people to understand, and so making it easier for people to comply, I think, will help us achieve our housing goal overall. And let me just check my notes real quick.
Could I ask a clarifying question, Mayor?
Yes.
With Councilmember Lamb's change that did not go through, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Apologize for that.
Yeah, so so I said.
So your change would be.
Sorry, Councilmember. I said no to Councilmember Lamb's, and I'm saying yes
So
to
you have
my
a new
suggestion.
one that you're.
And
so
what is
then
your
we need-
suggestion now
right.
again?
My suggestion was to make no other changes to the housing goal, but to where it says priority 2 TBD, to make that priority simplify permitting and increase regulatory understanding. So I'll go, Councilmember O'Farrell.
You just want to know if I agree with those changes? Yeah.
That change, yes. Councilmember Boyer, do you want to weigh in?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Stewart.
Sure.
Councilmember Lamb.
I'm fine with it.
Councilmember Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I agree.
Councilmember Tree.
No.
Okay. And then Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah. So on the goal for environment, it may seem a little bit like wordsmithing, but I think just to make things more actionable, it shouldn't be implement actions to reduce greenhouse gases. It should be reduce greenhouse gases and VMT, right? Obviously, we're going to implement, we're going to do things, we're going to take action to do that. And then for the priority 2, if it's just to maintain, I'm fine with that. In terms of measures, I think we need to be measuring the current VMT and greenhouse gases, and then the, any changes that we can measure, and we should be showing like what we propose. Like if we took an action, we speculate that over the next 5 years it will reduce by whatever, and then we track the progress towards that. I think that's the appropriate way to look at these. Many of these will be longer term, right? Any action we take, we're not going to see anything right away, which is why I think we need to show what that goal would be. I think that's an important thing from a measurement perspective. And then when I look at housing for measurement, we should look at also the types of housing, right? Again, current, sort of what the actions that we've taken, what we believe that will produce, and then track our progress towards that. So all of these measures, I think, can be created in a way to show what that, like, here's where we are, here's where we want to be, here's the progress that we're making towards that. And that hopefully will simplify it for you guys as well, in terms of how do we figure that out, right? So if we're going to take an action, we're going to say we're going to, and I'm making this up, we're going to ban cars for a month and make everybody take the bus, right? And we propose that that's going to reduce greenhouse gases by by X amount. Then we say this is what we propose, and then we measure that and see if we achieve that. So I think that will help with those work plan items and how we measure. And I think we can also work on those measurements along during the year as well, right? Like we can hopefully come back as we learn more and see what we're going to do in the work plan to come up with things that we can really measure to show whether we're achieving what we set out to do.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mike if you could repeat what you heard, and then we will say yes or no to that. And Councilmember.
Oh, sorry, I did more than one at a time. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Maybe, I don't know. We'll let Mike repeat, and then Councilmember Stewart, if you could confirm, and then we can go down the dais.
Yes, so under environment, the first priority, which currently says implement actions to reduce GHG and VMT, would strike implement actions to and simply be reduce GHG and VMT.
That's our priority, right? Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Councilmember O'Farrell. Okay.
Yep.
Councilmember Boyer.
No comment.
Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
I'm good with the change. Councilmember Deputy Mayor.
Fine with the change.
No comment.
All right. And then the next one.
Was to update the measure, to measure, right? Well, this is for the environment, right? So we would measure those, the outcomes of those things that we implement, right? Here's where we are, here's where we expect to be, and then we show progress over time for environmental stuff. And then, so.
You got it?
Yes, essentially the measure would be measuring GHG and VMT and showing how actions that we're taking are affecting the projection over time.
Is this additive or replacing?
Oh, geez. I believe it would be additive because right now, well, it would replace, because right now it says the number of actions implemented, and I don't like measures that measure activity. I like measures that measure outcomes. So it would be replacing the number of actions implemented in the climate action plan.
Okay. Councilmember O'Farrell. Councilmember Boyer.
No comment.
Councilmember Lamb.
Is there a reason why there's only 2 measures? Could there be 3?
There's no reason why there couldn't. We were just trying to keep it to a reasonable number.
Okay. Could we just add that as the 3rd one? Thanks.
Yeah.
It looks like Councilmember Stewart's okay. O'Farrell's okay adding. I'm okay adding. Deputy Mayor.
I'm okay.
Councilmember Treen.
No comment.
Thank you. Was there any others?
Just the housing one, to add a measure that says to look at the types of housing in addition to the number of affordable units. Because part of the goal is, or part of the priority is diverse types.
Okay, Councilmember O'Farrell.
Maybe we could just say, does anybody object? How about that? That might be faster. Sorry, just trying to make it go faster.
Boyer, no comment?
No comment.
Okay, Councilmember Lamb.
Yes.
I'm good with it. Deputy
I'm
Mayor.
going to move to no comment.
No comment.
Okay, there we go. And any other council member want to weigh in on these? I see no lights. I think we're done with this section.
Okay. Yeah, we'll bring an updated draft back to you at an upcoming meeting so you can formally approve them. Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much. And I understood from our conversation before you wanted to come back again at a different time with the work plan discussion. Okay.
That is correct, but it will be very soon. I know we're all eager to look at the work plan, and we need your input and thoughts for the budget. So please do give some thought to. I said we will be very soon. We will come back with the work plan. So because we need it, and we know that you are very interested in it. So please give some thoughts to what is currently on the draft, as well as ideas that you may or may not be interested in seeing moving forward in the next biennium. So we'll see you very soon.
I'll forward you my written comments because I made notes this time.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Treen.
I request that the goals come back on the agenda, but not on the consent, please. Thank you.
We would agree.
Okay, if that is all, we'll move on to any public comment. I don't know, do we put out a second sheet for after meeting comments? Okay, would anyone in the room? All right.
Hi, Mary Wichter, Sammamish. I just wanted to mention a few things. I think where people are speeding in the city, my husband walks a lot, and it would really help if people slowed down, and if the city made money doing that, that would be cool. School zones or anywhere, and people just need to learn how to drive better and follow the rules instead of be texting on their phone. On housing, we need more smaller units, and in the chart that I gave you, if you build another Sky Apartments or let one be built, the people in there will have smaller units and they'll be paying $445 per year city tax. And if you have 159 of those units, it comes out to be about $71,000 per acre, and you've got almost 2 acres. If you build things in town center, well, you will get more money, and you need to look at it that way. I believe it's really important to consider economic development. I grew up in Bozeman, Montana. I do a lot of those meetings remotely. They hire a consultant from Colorado who's spoken a number of times at their planning commission meetings and their council. And he said, and he had very good data and he had visuals, and I can send the link again if any of you would want to watch it. He said that around a neighborhood center, for it to be viable, you need to have 3,300 units. Because if you have too small units, people try to rent the businesses, people don't come, and they go out of business. You're seeing that happen, I believe, in the Safeway thing right now. You need the number, so you guys keep limiting town center to 2,000 or to 2,500 or 3,000. 3,300 is the neighborhood center, and you do have the EIFs up to 4,000 units. So you need to look higher, because when you build the smaller units, you don't have the same impact as a large single-family home. There isn't that much traffic. They don't have kids. They do ride transit. You're not paying for more infrastructure because it's like I showed you, it's on 2 pieces of paper instead of on 20 or 20, almost 30 pieces of paper. So I really think you need to look at that, and it's super important. It's the thing I've heard and I've watched and I've seen it in other places that is the way to your fiscal structural imbalance and sustainability. So you do need to have more density. We don't want single family homes, and if you really limit town center, they're only going to build townhomes because that makes money. And when they build townhomes, there is no commercial. And once you have built town center, those houses are going to live 50, 70 years. You are stuck. There isn't another place on this planet called Sammamish to do that. I'm really glad you're not going with the council committees. We did use them in the past a few times to great effect, but I think the suggestions for an economic development or something on this side and transportation, if you want to do that, and those have worked before. I think when you're looking at cutting the number of things you're looking at cutting, you need to not up staff's time. You had great staff. There's a lot less of it now, and we just can't keep cutting it as a solution. It won't work. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anyone registered online for public comment?
Ooh, we have a hand raised that is pre-registered. Let me double check.
Okay.
Yes. One moment while I promote the commenter. Whenever you're ready.
Hello, City Council. Paul Stickney, Sammamish. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm going to give you a reference to take a look at a couple things. And I know that for reasons of one's own, all of us, there are very different opinions on housing in Sammamish. But take a look at the May 15th, 2025 Planning Commission Parks meeting, and it's an easier format to look at what I'm going to talk about. The May 13th City Council meeting has this as well. And no, I didn't know those off of my head. I was doing some searching for these because I knew where they existed. But let's use the May 15th Planning Commission meeting. Folder 4 has 18 documents in support of alleviating decades-old citywide housing imbalance, and look at them as a whole. In folder 5, 15 documents in support of alleviating fiscal imbalance by means of optimal citywide housing for stages of life. I would change that order around today. I would say that doing it because of the need of local residents outweighs the fiscal. That's important, but the needs are more so. And in number 6, yes, I'm talking about citywide study. I am. But I also know for a fact that the Town Center 2007 EIS can handle far more units without exceeding the traffic it plans for. So in folder 6, there are 11 documents in support of more units in Town Center because we don't exceed the traffic it plans for. Look for all that. What does it mean? There's a lot of documents here and things have morphed a little. So I don't have enough time to qualify all of this. I'm just going to throw some key numbers out. I believe updated numbers would yield about 18 million a year net from adding the 7,100 houses that I'm talking about on a citywide scale. For people that could stay, they'd save around 35 to 40,000 a year in cost if they downsize, and there'd be over 170 million in one-time fees. Take a look.
Thank you. Is anyone else online?
That's everyone.
All right.
And so there's no more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we move on to council reports. Councilmember O'Farrell. Councilmember Boyer. Councilmember Stewart.
We have EFR on Thursday, and I will forward the agenda as soon as it comes out. Pretty much we will be trying to lock in on a direction for our long-term finances and governance model and kicking off some budget work. So,
Councilmember Lamb.
I'm attending an event on Friday called Welcoming in Action. I believe it's cities and nonprofits coming together talking about strategies for building thriving communities.
This week I had the Domestic Violence Initiative Task Force meeting. I believe I forwarded everyone the agenda. There's never any action. It's just updates about what's happening around the county. And then there was the Emergency Management Advisory Committee tomorrow, and everyone should have received that agenda as well. Again, no action, all talk about the World Cup. And then I'm doing the EFER Board of Directors meetings. That's it. Deputy Mayor.
I have an ARCH meeting tomorrow preparing for a presentation on the Habitat for Humanities that I'm going to give in a couple of weeks. And then there's a Housing Mini Academy for elected leaders that I signed up for. That's pretty much all day on Friday, so I'll be doing that. The PIC meeting is tomorrow night as well, which I sent the agenda last week. Thanks.
Councilmember Tree.
Yeah, tomorrow I have a management committee, Kokanee work group feasibility study. So it's this study. And then EFR, EF&R on Thursday. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. First up, as you all know, our police chief is getting pulled into downtown, and so we are in the process of replacing our chief. And because we are a contract city with King County, they provide us with some applicants, and then we go through an interview process. And so there are 3 different interview panels. One is made up of police staff, one is made up of leadership team members, and then one is made up of council members and myself. And so we have the mayor and deputy mayor are going to sit on that, but we are looking for one more council member to join that group. And then those meetings are scheduled, and so hopefully whoever that is, they can make those times, because we already have the candidates set in part because we want to get this squared away before World Cup really kicks in, because they're going to get pulled all kinds of directions. So with that, Mayor, if I may, I would like to ask for a 3rd council member to join the interview panels.
Looks like Councilmember Stewart's interested. I didn't see it. I didn't see anyone else.
Shocking.
All right.
Great.
Uh-oh.
It's okay, Councilmember Stewart. We will reach out tomorrow and get you those dates and times. And
Thank you.
Hopefully those all will work. Appreciate that, Council. And we hope to wrap up that interview process, and then we'll make the appointment as soon as possible, hopefully before the end of the month. That's the goal. And then lastly, as those of you already know, I have submitted my resignation. And so I've greatly enjoyed my 5 years working for your wonderful community, and really appreciate and honor the opportunity to work for all of you and for the community. I've got my last functional committee meeting, or a council meeting, will be June 16th. So I've got a couple more to go, but I want to say thank you to everybody now. I'm sure there'll be a little more of that, but I just want to let everyone know. I let the leadership team and the staff know earlier today, so I want to make sure everyone has all the same information from me. So with that, Mayor, thank you, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. City Manager. I want to say thank you for your service to the city. You've come in at a challenging time, particularly around the budget challenges we were talking about tonight, and you've had been a steady voice for, I think, the council over the last several years, and I want to say thank you for your service to our city and the residents.
Thank you, Mayor. One other piece, and I apologize, I forgot to mention this. Council will be initiating a process to figure out what happens next. And with that, Mayor, I think you made the suggestion previously about putting a subcommittee together to look at that process. And so if that's something that council is interested in, I would suggest that that subcommittee possibly get going. As you know, I've recommended bringing on a retired interim to allow for a smooth transition while you all decide what you want to do for the recruitment process. And so if that's something, we'd want to get that kicked off fairly soon as well. So just as a suggestion.
So I'd propose we put together a group of 3 council members and come back, if at all possible, by our next council meeting so we can take action, so we can move relatively quickly on this. June 16th will be the last council meeting, so we need to get going. So I know I would.
For process.
The committee's for process. What do we do, and make recommendations to the council to decide on what the process is, not on a selection of a candidate.
I'm interested.
Okay. Is there any, so I would like to be on it. Councilmember Trine?
I would.
Okay. Councilmember Lamb? Anyone?
I think
Okay.
that's it.
That's 3.
Okay. Sounds good. No objections there. Okay. Then we will all email each other and find a time to meet and come back to the council with some thoughts.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. And as always, staff and the city attorney are available to assist with that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to also thank City Manager for my short time here and all your help along the way. To someone new, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Scott, you kind of got pushed into this role in not necessarily the best of circumstances, and you really were a steadying voice through in the early days, a tumultuous period. So thank you very much. You've now trained a number of council members, right? You've had a few rounds, and your patience with all of us is not unnoticed. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for caring so much about our community. Thank you for hiring and maintaining such amazing staff. Yeah. Thank you. Best of luck in your new endeavors.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Scott, I want to just thank you so much for all the great laughs we've had during our one-on-ones. I really enjoyed it. They're always very entertaining, and I always look forward to them. So we've had many a good chuckle at many a few items. So I wish you well in the future. I'm delighted for you and your family. You will be greatly missed, and thank you for your immense contribution to our city. Like has been said prior, you came in at quite a tumultuous time, and you took the reins. And as a new council member, I was an appointed council member at the time, and then an elected one. I really relied on your advice and your common sense, and I really appreciated that, and I continue to. So all the very best of luck in the future. Somebody else's institution is their gain, is our loss. So, but thank you, and it's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Lamb.
So I was really disappointed to hear that, but at the same time, I also understand, different paths in the future are also great opportunities. And I very much appreciated the last 5 years that you were the city manager that I first started working with, really. And you were a steady voice in a lot of the issues that we were facing, which were very hard to get through. So I do appreciate all our one-on-ones and just the steady guidance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Didn't I? Beautiful. I want to thank you as well for all the support you've given to me, the excellent advice on some tough times in the last few months. It's been a difficult few months, I think, for the city council in general and for the city especially. We've always had really candid conversations. I could talk to you about anything, and I really do appreciate that, with just having that open, honest conversation about things that concern me and things that concern you. And I've always appreciated your perspective about the city. It's been nothing but professional. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, everybody. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We don't have to do that. We are adjourned.
on growth projections?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The one comment I will make, I wish you would have shown the slides showing the projections, the downward projections of each of the school districts, which is dramatic over the next several years.
We have this?
It's in our packet.
Yeah, they are included with each of the